It's Copycat time, and I'm going to be cooking up the double cheeseburger from Dyers out of Memphis, Tennessee. Let's get going. The Dyers burger is extremely historic in the world of burgers. Started out in Memphis, Tennessee in 1912. Basically what they were doing was cooking burgers in a big old cast iron skillet, and they just never bothered to drain the grease as they cooked. The grease level kept rising, and before you know it, they came up with a very kind of one-of-a-kind, unique way of cooking burgers. Deep frying them in beef tallow, and they never changed the grease in over 100 years. Basically what they'll do is strain the grease every morning, and then they'll season it, and I'm going to show you how I did that. Every morning, Dyers cooks up a big batch of chopped onions, which is exactly what I did. I cooked up some onions. It was a whole chopped onion until it got nice and brown. I did not want it to go black because, again, that would start that burnt kind of rancid flavor. And then Dyers adds a secret seasoning liquid. It's a dark liquid. I don't know what it is, but what I used was Maggi. And Maggi is basically a kind of an all-purpose seasoning. It's really good for soups and sauces, and you can find it in the ethnic aisles of your grocery store. If you have a Hispanic market, you can see it there. Let's get on with these burgers. The ground beef that Dyers uses is actually pretty high on the fat scale. Your average hamburger is usually going to be 80% lean, 20% fat. The Dyers burger is actually 73% lean, 27% fat. Listening to one of the managers explain the logic there, and it makes sense. He's saying that a lean ground beef patty going into that grease is actually going to soak up oil, where the fatty patty actually expels fat. It kind of feeds the accumulated grease that they have going, but also it's not sucking up a bunch of grease. So it makes sense to me. At least I want it to make sense. It makes sense. I ground my own beef. You can't find 73-27 anywhere unless you grind it yourself or have it ground. I was looking for a chuck that had it looked like it had the amount of fat that I wanted. And to be honest with you, the smaller cuts were too lean, and the cuts that looked like they had the fat I wanted, they were way too much. It was way too much meat. So I kind of stepped out of the box a little bit, elevated Dyers burger a little, and I used a ribeye. It was the perfect amount of fat, and I love ribeye in a burger. So here's what it looks like. Now what they do is they're actually scooping the meat, and it's a fine grind, and it's very well compacted, and they scoop it out with an ice cream scooper, which is exactly what I did. And you're going to end up with 3 ounces of meat. So before I forget, my grease, this tallow is running at 300 degrees Fahrenheit, which is what Dyers uses. Anything higher than that, it throws off the cadence of the cook. Everything just happens way too quickly. When it comes to prepping everything else, getting the buns ready, getting the cheese on, and having 2 perfectly cooked patties, target 300 degrees. If you're going to err on the low side, believe me. I did some test runs on this whole cook before I did it, so just listen to me. The next step is going to be smashing these patties. Dyers uses a pretty wide rectangular shaped smasher or spatula. I looked all over, I couldn't find one, so I'm just using my good old burger flipper here. And then they have like a weight thing that they press against the spatula and smash it down. I'm using a 2-pound dumbbell that I bought at my local sporting goods for $3. Great deal. And I'm gonna get all yoked up after this video here. Right now it's time to smash patties. I didn't mention this, but this is just a big disc of marble I actually had made to cover a fire pit I have. Dyers, they have a big marble countertop that they smash theirs on. So first thing I'm gonna do is dip my spatula in this hot grease. This is something that I noticed them doing on the videos I've watched. Get this smashed. Just kind of progressively getting firmer with my spatula and the weight here. Smoothing out. Looks good. This is a tricky part, and it's not going to be real pretty, guys. I'll tell you that right now. Get it in the grease. Smash number 2. Not ready for a job there. I really would love to try this with that big spatula. That was pretty good, actually. Okay, while those are cooking, I'm going to go ahead and prep that bun. Really quickly, some mustard on there, a lot of mustard. Dill pickles, a lot. Big chunk of raw onion and a bunch of pepper, black pepper. And so the burgers are done. Use this one here since there's a little tear, and apply the cheese, and I'll use that cheese. It's good. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and put the cheese on the patty. Just give it a quick dip. How cool is that? Now we'll go ahead and go underneath this one here. Bring it up. Let me straighten this out just a little bit. Don't try this at home. Wear gloves. I'm an idiot. Go ahead and bathe this in the oil. Put that down. Give it a good dip. Now let's make this burger. First thing I'm going to do is take that top bun, put it on here. We're going to make this a healthy burger. Drain off that extra grease, or excess, I guess you'd call it. Let's get this thing made. This is just the epitome of simple decadence. You can smell it, and you have to eat these things hot to get the most bang for the buck. It's just a nice kind of lacy edges coming out of there. I mean, that's a pretty burger, just pretty. I'm not a real raw onion guy, but again, when I was test driving this recipe, it works with this, especially with all that pepper and the pickles. When you first bite into it, you get that heat. I mean, I'm not talking spicy heat. I'm talking about that heat from, it's a very hot burger, and that crunch. It's a crunch you don't get with most burgers. You'll notice I didn't salt or pepper the patty at all. The onions that were cooked in this, and then that seasoning I put in was, along with the beef tallow flavor, all the seasoning it needs. It's again just so simple, and yet so, they call it, you know, one of the most decadent burgers in the country, and I'll agree with that. It's good stuff. Anyway, guys, thanks again for stopping by. Appreciate the suggestions. Hope you enjoyed the video. It's different, and I really think it's something worth trying. And beef tallow rocks, by the way. Makes the best French fries and best fried chicken on earth. Give it a go. See you in the next video. Cheers.